What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about one of the newer films that was released from A24. And I was not super excited to watch this movie for one reason in particular, and that is because it is directed by Halina Reijn, who directed the film Bodies, 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 which, if you watch my review for that movie, I absolutely despised everything about it. I appreciated the way that it was shot, but I thought the performances were insufferable. I thought the character writing was really underwhelming. I just felt like the movie meandered for so long. There was no real mystery. It just felt like people wandering around a house, discovering a dead body, getting into confrontation, and then moving on to the next thing. And I felt like the third act reveal was just incredibly lazy, and the comedic punch that it went for, it just didn't work for me whatsoever. I just thought that movie was really bad. And the one thing that got me interested in this is obviously the actors that were in this. I love Nicole Kidman. Antonio Banderas is great. I really have grown to love Harris Dickinson. I think he is such a talented actor. And so having those three in this movie got me a little bit more intrigued to see it. And the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is Babygirl. Babygirl is directed by Halina Reijn. A high-powered CEO puts her career and family on the line when she begins a torrid affair with her much younger intern. So, like I said, I'm not a big fan of this director's first movie, but I went into this with an open mind. I thought the subject matter sounded incredibly fascinating, and I thought this movie was complete and utter garbage. I absolutely hated it. I can't stand this kind of movie for one particular reason. When I read the initial reviews for this, I see all these people talking about it's provocative and it's kinky and it's exploring this side of human sexuality that's so fascinating. And I am someone who is fascinated with human sexuality. I love researching it. I love understanding it. I think what's so interesting about our culture is that this culture is founded on conservative Christian principles. No matter what people want to say, they're trying to run this country as if it is based in conservative Christian ideology, which makes a ton of the members of society incredibly conservative. And so when you watch media, people that find things to be really edgy or evocative or any of those things, they're typically not. And that's my issue with this movie. It's very tame. This movie felt like 50 Shades of Grey with the A24 logo smacked in front of it. It's honestly like poorly written fan fiction or erotica that you would find on someone's like Zanga from back in the day. Really bad dialogue. Even the performances, like I love Nicole Kidman, but I just could not understand what people are seeing in this movie. And I'll break it down more as I talk about the film as a whole today. So, the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Romy, played by Nicole Kidman, who is a high powered CEO, and we see her going about her day to day life. We actually open the film with her having sex with her husband, who is played by Antonio Banderas, who is a director. He works on stage production, and we see him a couple of times during the film working on his productions. And we can tell their relationship isn't awful, but they're not completely connected. They have sex at the beginning of the movie, and Nicole Kidman immediately goes into another room and masturbates to this porn where there's this like dominance thing where someone is controlling someone else. And so we see her go about her day-to-day lives, and eventually we're introduced to Samuel, played by Harris Dickinson, who's working as an intern at her company. And he eventually comes into contact with her. The initial way that they meet up is she sees him like stop this dog from attacking this person outside of her building, and she gets really turned on by it. They meet, and he says, "Hey, there's this program. I saw your name was on there, so I signed up for you to be the person who shadows me during these 7 to 10 minute sessions where you tell me more about the company." And the first time they meet, there's this very uncomfortable tension that ends up leading to the two of them kissing. And then it leads to this affair that they have where they start seeing each other, and he starts to overstep his bounds a little bit. He starts meeting with her family, saying that he's her assistant, all of these things. And the entirety of the film is watching this relationship between these two colleagues that could get Nicole Kidman's character into some serious trouble, and how things play out as the movie progresses forward. So, like I said, I hated this movie. I thought it was absolutely terrible. And there's a multitude of reasons for that. But I will say, if I'm going to give this like one positive, there's some nice shot selections in this. There were a couple of moments I thought the attentiveness to detail and the cinematography worked really nice for specific scenes, especially in a lot of the scenes with the sexual encounters. They'll hold on shots for a very long period of time, so the audience has to sit with it. And I think that's important when you're exploring a film with subject matter, especially when it comes to human sexuality, to have the audience members sit with that for a minute rather than just cutting away. And so I do commend the director for at least like allowing the audience to live in these moments enough to experience it. But that's the only positives I have. There are so many negatives to this movie. For starters, none of these characters feel like people. They don't feel like real people whatsoever. And I'm not saying that you have to make movies that every single person feels like an authentic human being, but these feel like caricatures of people. And that's what really frustrates me. That can be utilized in a way that works when I think of like the films of Yorgos Lanthimos, where like he takes absurdism and really takes these characters that might not necessarily be developing like a specific person, but they're representative of something much larger. And it works to his advantage because of how he plays into that. This just felt like every bland stereotype that you could imagine about each one of these characters coming from the worlds that they come from. And there's just nothing interesting. I felt like all of the relationship dynamics between her and her husband were so cliche and things that you've seen in the media for and books and movies for years and years and years. And I just got no takeaway from that. Like for a movie like this that's so much about power dynamics, I want to get more from each character and understand them on a deeper level so that that way these things can pay off. But because everything is so surface level, it all just feels like the director is trying to get shock value out of the viewer who might be like, I don't experience things of this sexual nature very often in my day-to-day life. And what really irritated me about this movie is so many people saying it's provocative and kinky and pushing boundaries. And I saw someone's Letterboxd review that I thought was brilliant that said, I've seen porn with better writing than this, with better narrative structure. And it's the truth. It's like everything about this movie felt like someone's dream of like, if I was a wealthy person in a company and my marriage isn't going well, and oh, look at this young, attractive intern and he's interested in me and he'll domineer me and tell me what to do. It's such an obnoxious fantasy land. And that's not to like demean, like, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, as people say. Like, whatever you're into, you can be into it. But this all feels so surface level and tame. Like the scene where he was like feeding her out of his hand, like it was like she was a dog. And you could just tell the director felt like, oh, I'm really pushing boundaries with this one. And I'm like, no, this is just the most surface level, bland, like, and it's like, I feel like all the positive reactions that I'm seeing with this movie are people who just find the actors attractive. Like, I'm not seeing a lot about the substantiveness of the film. And that's really the issue that I have with this, is there is nothing substantial. And also these actors are incredibly talented and most of their performances are bland. Like Paris Dickinson, I've seen so many people like, oh, he's so great in this movie. And I felt like even in the moments that he was supposed to be like domineering, I didn't feel that presence whatsoever. It was just, he just was kind of there. I feel like he could have been replaced by any actor and it would have been the same movie. And even Nicole Kidman, who is just a phenomenal actress, I didn't get anything out of her performance in this. It was very flat and uninspiring. And aside from that, some of the cinematography in this movie was very shaky and kind of nauseating. They tried to add little elements in, like the relationship of Nicole Kidman to her kids, and I just felt like none of that was really fleshed out enough to matter, and most of everything just hinged on, oh no, we're in this relationship and you could possibly get me fired from my job, and there's not much else to it. And I feel like even the issues that she's having, just with her sexual satisfaction in her marriage, it was all like an open communication type of thing, to where like she just clearly wasn't talking to her husband about this thing that was important to her. And so all of the confrontation in the film exists because of her unwillingness to be open and communicate, which then becomes just a very surface level message of the film of like, well, I was unsatisfied in my marriage because I didn't want to talk to my partner. And then, like, because I didn't talk to my partner, now I'm in this affair that could cause me to lose my job. And that was supposed to be the high stakes element of the movie. And I didn't get anything out of this. Like for 40 minutes of this movie, I was just like, where in the hell is this going to go? And when it finally got to the point where the affair started, I was like, okay, is this going to be intriguing in like an eyes wide shut type of way? Or movies that are more evocative sexually, movies that like evoke an interesting conversation. And it's not that. It's very dull, it's very bland, it's very surface level. And the best way I can describe it is what I said at the beginning of the review. It's 50 Shades of Grey with the A24 logo smacked in front of it. And that is it. I will never watch this movie again. And I really don't understand the hype around this movie at all. So have you seen Babygirl? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was terrible. I hated everything about it, and I will never watch it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.